And welcome, my friends, to the Passion Within. We've got Julian Scanlon from the Ecological Project with us today, a man of great passion and knowledge and understanding. And like the rest of us, perfectly imperfect. We're all still learning and growing, but he has agreed to come on, share his passion for growing, and explain to us some of the reasons he's found those passions and why he's taken the path that he has to reach the point that he is in his understanding. Julian, thank you so much, my friend, for giving of your time. And I want to say thank you to the audience as well for coming and joining us. Don't forget to put questions in the comments. But Julian, let's jump right in, brother, and tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know you've been around the world, basically from Italy back to the US in your knowledge and training. But give us a little bit more detail on who Julian Scanlon is.
Well, thank you. First of all, Ken, thanks for hosting and thanks for, making things like this happen. I think we'll obviously see a huge wave of knowledge being spread and people like having actionable ways to interact with the natural world and, create abundance. And so thank you. My name is Julian. I was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So a lot of my family and roots is from here. However, my dad took a teaching job at a study abroad program in Italy, and I had the great fortune of going over there around the age of 5 and essentially doing elementary school, middle school, and high school all in Italy. It was an incredible gift from my parents. I honestly shout out to my mom and dad because they really provided me not only with great environment to grow up in, but always like pushed me into growing plants and interacting with food and exploring the extent of our sensory capabilities. And they really gave me a good platform to do that in. And I was able to travel back and forth. I came back to New Mexico on and off mostly every summer, and I was able to get an insight into more or less what the American life was like, while I soon realized that I was just getting a narrow window of it all. But I kind of kept in touch with my American family and some of the American ways, and ended up coming here for college. Went to CNM and then UNM here in New Mexico, where I got a degree in international studies with a concentration in religion and belief systems. So in my college years, I was very on the search for answers, and I was a little more relegated to the religious philosophical world, and I was really trying to find meaning, right? And I'd been raised on a little farm. We'd had turkeys and some sheep, vegetables, and all this kind of stuff, and I slowly started gravitating back to that because I found belonging in that, and it reminded me of home, and I soon realized I needed it because the food I was eating was simply not as healthy. And it was pretty clear to me as I was growing up and I was going back and forth between Italy and the US, I would gain weight over the span of 1 month being in the US and then go back to Italy and lose it. And I wasn't changing anything in my diet. I was a gorger to the extent that I probably could have been eating even healthier in Italy. I still wasn't giving myself a lot of limitations. And being in a place where the food is grown nearby almost by necessity, and it's grown in a healthy way also by necessity because it's cheaper. That kind of led to this realization that, okay, I need to grow food on my own if I want to have it healthy, because I can't afford it to get it all the time at the farmer's market. And I need to essentially give myself and my family a higher quality of life. And in a pragmatic sense, really avoid disease. You're eating food that's been grown with biology, that's endowed it with not only more mineral content and even more biology on itself. You're actually getting something that's supporting your immune system, supporting your body. And it's really important when you see that we're in the US, we're this first world country, and a lot of these statistics are going down. Average lifespan is going down. pregnant mother mortality rate, is going down. We're not we're not just going up and up and up anymore. We're hitting this wall. And I think there's this really important realization that we need to have as humans. We need to clean up the way we eat. When we do that, it'll not only clean ourselves, but it'll give us the mental clarity to start fighting the system, unplugging from the system, right? So long story short, I'm in the US, I'm searching for culture, I'm searching for flavor, I'm searching for nutritional density, and I figured out that got to start working on making myself and bringing other people in that are on the same goal, and together we can all create this beautiful, essentially community of abundance, right? And we're kind of in this esoteric world right now, but kind of pragmatically, what that means is, we can endow people with the knowledge to know how to plant plants effectively, that give them food and medicine at very low cost, at very low effort. That means we're cutting out the middleman, right? We're all fighting, and the rat race, so to speak, is to get food. If we just provide ourselves with food, it alleviates that race. And again, cutting out the middleman. And that isn't to say everyone needs to be a farmer. I think that's also an important point. There are a lot of different positions in society that need to be filled, and it is a little demoralizing for people to hear, hey, listen, you've got to grow your own food or you won't make it. I'm totally okay with that. I'm totally okay with smaller structured societies where, the burden is shared. And yes, we still are going to need doctors, and yes, we're still going to need, a whole variety of positions, but farmers are all gone. They even dropped off the census in the last few years, and because there's so few left. So all I'm trying to do is get more people to grow more food, and I'm doing that hopefully by introducing them to flavorful things that kind of unlock that wantingness to grow, to find seeds, to save seeds, right? And because when I came here, I ate a lot of food, and there's a lot of that candy available, a lot of these really intense flavors, right? I mean, your Doritos are your classic kind of like dopamine rush food. But what if we substitute that with super intense flavor? What if we substitute that with a fermented mushroom that just like has a complexity to it that just hits your palate, and all of a sudden you're forming memories? And right, I mean, I'm talking about touching people, okay, metaphorically, to the point where they are willing to make a difference, give them something so tasty. Okay, they want to grow that tomatoes. Like, where do I get this tomato? I'll pay more for this tomato. Oh, open it up and there's seeds. You've already got it, right? Like, we already have this potential. And I guess to get back to the passion, what's just fueling me is seeing this future, closing my eyes and imagining, the desert turning back into a prairie here, New Mexico becoming the diverse savanna that it was always meant to be, food growing on every corner, where we have block parties for the different seasonalities of fruit. We have almost this like pride for the local varieties of plants that we have and festivities around them, right? I mean, I could imagine, New Mexico loves their green chili, for example. Let's really point people towards that hatch green chili and get people to really want to be part of it and grow it at their house and all this different stuff, right? In Kansas, the corn, whatever, this is pretty broad talk, but, get them to say, hey, let's start this almost fabricated competition. Who grows the most colorful corn? And all of a sudden everyone's growing different corn and competing with each other to have something special. And that's a beautiful world to have. And the fact is, it's doable. It may not be easy, but it's there. And we are on the precipice of disaster. I mean, not to get too negative, but we need to acknowledge that if we don't turn this thing around quick, we're going to lose our shores. We're losing biodiversity. I want to see all the insects and bugs and whatever that is still out there. I don't want to miss out on that. And I want to make it so that this planet can not only maintain that, but start generating more, and biodiversity expands because we're no longer like dumping chemicals in the waterways, and it's all there. And I think this can be a grassroots thing. No one needs to like be the head of this and get taken down for it. We can just spread like mycelium, influence your neighbors, influence your peer group, and we'll do this from the bottom up, right? I don't think, I mean, of course, we're going to need big actors, so to speak, to, you know, eventually reach all the people that, you know, are in that suburbia, are in that detached land. But just knowing that you can make a difference and get someone started on a journey that's more regenerative is huge. And all we're doing this, we're looking long term, right? Too. I mean,
Yeah.
Native Americans have the 7-generation mentality. I'm looking forward, and I'm hoping to create a planet that, you know, is a, you know, forever generating abundance for our people,
Yes.
and the animals and the insects, and we can all thrive in harmony. That's the thing. Like, humans, at the end of the day, we're causing a lot of the problems, but we're not an invasive species. Like, we belong here, you know. And a lot of people have this negative approach and say, okay, humans are the disease. Well, maybe it's the way we manage our land that is the problem, and it's not us, right? And you know, Edo, Japan was known for being just super, super, super populated, and more or less working it out through sewage management systems and fermentation, right, to keep all the food more consolidated. In fact, I love looking at Japan for all that they've done, because they're working with such a small surface area that they're needing to innovate and find ways to do the best thing possible, right? They don't have just any old cows going around in Japan, right? They have the top of the line Kobe beef, right? It's all done in a very efficient way, and all we need to do is apply that to the rest of the world, because there's just waste left and right, and you know, we
Yeah.
throw away so much of our food that could be compost, and we just burn gas away, you know, where we could have trains that would at least alleviate some of that car pressure. You know, there are a lot of these systems that can be slowly put in place that'll make things a lot easier and make it so that humans will be the solution. We'll be, we were the problem, but we need to be the solution now, right? And so we need to
Yes.
work on getting this planet turned around, cleaned up. And at the end of the day, a lot of it's just getting out of the way. Nature is just embedded to grow and take over. And so in a lot of cases, yeah, we might need to remediate, but it's also just getting out of the way and letting that succession of plants come through and take over again. So yes, beautiful future ahead of us. There's just a lot to look forward to, and everyone can work towards that future in their own little way.
Well, and I think one of the key takeaways is getting out of the way of nature, but also in understanding what we're calling weeds or invasive species is Mother Nature's way to put the nutrients back in the soil. Those seeds would not even germinate if there wasn't the right conditions. And we, like you said, we need to get out of the way, but you know, we can help. And that's where you have done a lot of studying, and you've researched into biodynamics and Korean natural farming. You know, we're going to leave that for a minute. I want to go back a little bit more into your past and mom and dad taking the teacher, being teachers in Italy and having you there. You had mentioned gaining weight when you came to the States and then losing it when you went back. Do you think that is just because you were eating what you were growing at home, or you were eating the food here in North America has more herbicides, pesticides, chemicals in the processing of it? Do you think where do you think the problem was in that the weight loss to non-weight loss?
So, I mean, there's a lot that contributes to that. I mean, part of it is it was the summer and there were more parties to attend, and I don't want to like ignore that as a variable. But
Yeah.
a lot of the food available was pizzas, really oily pizzas and hamburgers, and any vegetable that I end up eating, I'm sure was grown at scale and didn't have nearly the nutritional density. And of course, as we know, there's a lot of pesticide use, and that does affect our gut biome. In fact, it's probably affecting everyone's gut biome at this point. And after having lived here in the US for about, I think, 2-3 years, I started developing GI issues. Like,
Yeah.
it was just a matter of time. And I was blessed to grow up in Italy, where things were more or less clean, and the EU has some certain standards for pesticide use and whatnot. and I just got wrecked. I mean, my stomach got wrecked, and that's part of the reason why I jumped into Korean natural farming alongside all the fermentation in the cooking
Yeah.
world, is because there's this beautiful holistic, connection of like, oh, I'm making this food for my plants that can also be food for me. Making this medicine for my plants that can be medicine for me, like, right, OHN. That's a beautiful way of keeping pathogens down both in your plants and yourself. And
Yeah.
I needed that. Like, it was, I'd love to say like, oh, I just fell in love with fermenting and followed it down. But part of it was this drive to like heal my gut. I mean, it was a total like, I'd wake up nauseous in the mornings, and it was a total like, it would slow me down. It would slow me down, and I couldn't have that, right? I mean, I just need to get stuff done. And fermentation gave me a way to heal myself. And, while I'm not maybe completely there, I've actually gone back and forth between really getting really well and then needing to take antibiotics and kind of witnessing that collapse and then having to build it back up. But now I know how, and now I know that I can like at least show other people how. And, just eating a ton of sauerkraut like all the time. I mean, there's hardly anything simpler advice to give someone that's working with their gut, right? I mean, it's not going to be a silver bullet or anything, but what we need to realize is that our ancestors ate ferments all day, every day. It wasn't just like drinking a kombucha on the weekend, right? I mean, I had this realization where I was like, okay, I don't need to just be taking some probiotics. I need to be taking a lot of probiotics and like incorporating that into the system. People don't know, like a lot of the probiotics at the store on the shelf in pill form are either not very diverse or partially dead or don't make it to the full extent of your gut biome. So, I mean, there's all these things that are wrong, and you could actually make a very simple sauerkraut that's very cheap and not that time consuming. That's way more effective than that. And so it's a way to get people to take health in their own hands while also experiencing flavor and experiencing the beauty of all the different things that we can create, right? The combinations are endless. There are all these fermentation methods, and then there are all these ingredients, and then there's all the ways they come together, and infinite combinations. And so people should be excited about that.
I'm going to jump in here because Silly Lily, and thank you, Silly Lily. You're amazing. You're on all the shows.
Hey, Silly Lily. I totally recognize you from the chats. Hope you're doing well.
She's saying, Julian, I have stomach issues from time to time. My husband convinced me to take gel cap filled with worm castings. My pain disappeared in a short time. So, and I know myself, I take WCA, or for those that don't know, water soluble calcium, for arthritis in my hands. And I noticed that my teeth were actually starting to regenerate. So there's so much we don't understand. And I have a German background, my grandmother and sauerkraut, we would make like 40 gallons at a time. Yeah. But she was never sick. She was always healthier than a horse, And I think that's part of it. And it more easily digested for us. But what else do you think is one of the key points in your past that puts you onto this path? I guess really what I'm asking, Julian, is if there was one thing in your teenage years that put you on this path of understanding, what would have that been?
Oh man, I almost have to bring it even farther back than teenage years, when I came back to the US for third grade, and I was homeschooled at my grandmother's house here in New Mexico. And I planted this tomato, and I really liked this tomato plant. Really didn't do very well over the summer, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put a little structure around it and make a little greenhouse as a little kid. And what happened was this tomato survived like well into the winter and just pumped out a ton of tomatoes. And so many people were coming through the house and tasting it and like saying, oh, wow, this is such a good tomato. It gave me a lot of pride, and it gave me a lot of, something to work on and do more of. And I just saw how it affected people. And I was like, okay, I just got to keep doing this. And, throughout my high school years, it was almost so passive. It was just kind of in the sidelines. It's like, okay, we have a little garden, we have some chickens and stuff. And we kind of interact with it on the side, and I almost took it for granted. I almost didn't realize like how crucial it was to have animals on the land and vegetables and stuff. And so, yes, I think the spark happened when I was a kid in third grade, and it really bloomed at the end of college when I was like, okay, I really want to be like involved in this political science world, and because I want to help. I want to help people figure out how to have peace, right? or whatever. I want to help the world figure itself out. And I realized, well, I can do that a lot better. The ground floor, teaching people how to grow food properly. And that was just kind of like addressing just the cause, right? Of a lot of our problems is the soil and the food that comes with it. And so after having been on this big like college journey and meeting a lot of friends and being like, do I really want to work for the government? Like at certain levels, doing like data analysis, like not really. I want to have my hands in the soil, and I want to learn how to teach people ultimately how to, change from synthetic to ideally natural farming techniques, or just anything that's not synthetic and destroying the world. And so in college, I was like, okay, this degree is great, and I've learned a lot from it, and it gave me all this background, but I hit the ground running growing mushrooms and growing all sorts of different foods and creating, again, greenhouses to extend my seasons. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's so much here. And like probably many in this field received, it was almost like too much, it's like, crap, no one's doing any of this. I'm so excited about all of it. I want to grow 20 different types of mushrooms. I want to grow 30 different strains of cannabis, and then those are just the two areas. I want to grow all sorts of different plants and things. And I soon realized that I needed to ultimately find a concentration, which I can't say that I even have yet, because I'm still just swimming around and seeing what my options are. And I think everyone should allow themselves to do that in this world, because there are a lot of things you could do, right? You could grow medicinal mushrooms. You could grow gourmet mushrooms, and it would be helping the planet. You could be getting a Permaculture Design Certificate and learning how to set properties up, right? And it's endless, right?
Yes.
And you should allow yourself to fish around, throw the net out, and see what's out there, so you don't get bottlenecked like happens in academia a lot of the time, where yeah, it's great. You get, I'm sure, very passionate professors and classmates and things that are all great for the college experience, but you do get a little tunnel vision when all you're doing is studying a certain function of a certain microbe or one element in the periodic table and how it reacts to other things. It's so focused, and I realized that being in a world where I can like pick and choose and cross over the mushroom world to the cannabis world per se, and learn from both sides, and bring things into place that may have not been there if I hadn't had that perspective. That was something that kind of gave me just the drive to discover, right? I mean, I was discovering cool things around every corner, right? I mean, 1,000 things could come up right now to my brain, honestly, but it's a beautiful world, right? We all see it express itself in millions of colors and flavors, and I think the joy of it is being in this life to experience it all and finding ways to just have more of that happen, and more abundance and all the good stuff. Yeah.
Well, and understanding that anything is possible. It may not be a normal thing to happen, but it is possible. And by exploring all the different methodologies that you can ever stick in your brain, it's going to help you on the broad spectrum. Now, I know you're a student of Mr. Matt Powers, the permaculture student, an absolutely amazing man. He's got something, I think, happening this month where that's free that people can go on. So if you haven't found
future.
that, and he's got some fantastic speakers, and I would suggest anybody go and take the time to watch that, because it's going to give you so much information, and again, those possibilities. The different speakers bring different perspectives. Now, let's focus on you and the Korean natural farming. What was I know what the catalyst was, is you want healthier for yourself, your family, and for your environment. But why Korean natural farming instead of, say, something like well, permaculture or food forest? Why did you focus on the natural farming methodology?
So, when I first started hearing about natural farming, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it hit me like a wall because I was trying to make nutrients for my plants. And I was also trying to make nutrients for all my friends. And I was giving people plants and I was trying to give them stuff, but I was like, wait, I can't afford this, right? I mean, I can't. But even like dry organic nutrients add up, right? I mean, it's really expensive. And so when I was like, oh, wait, I can just create nutrients from the weeds in my yard and from my extra eggshells and from the bones I found in the forest. I mean, it's like you can pull all this stuff out of thin air almost. And you have an incredible tool set that lets you, and I would say natural farming is a beautiful like addition to permaculture. It's like permaculture is the lens and KNF is the tool belt. And you can go in there and you can use all these different things. And to like, I guess, pedal back a little bit, there's no reason to be dogmatic about it either, right? I mean, natural farming is great, and I think everyone should give it a shot and go through all the different solutions and find, definitely get your IMO going and get all that biology revving up, but also make your inputs and then see how it works in your regimen. You may not need all the stuff, and you may have like something that's even cheaper for you depending on your bioregion too that you might be ignoring because of that, right? And so play around with it. It's like having a bunch of colors and being able to paint the picture, and you get to choose which one. Don't limit yourself. So yeah, jump into some biodynamic preps, right? Jump into like all the enzymatic world of digestion because there's a lot going on. But if you need somewhere to focus, because this world is all over the place, I would definitely go through natural farming and look at Chris Trump's videos, look at Pure KNF and Drake. Drake does a great Sunday show where he answers a lot of questions. Natural farming is this great little community where you can take the inputs one by one, learn how to make them, and slowly apply them. And I think it's a beautiful way of doing it. Now, just while we're kind of talking natural farming, I always have to like focus on the fact that yes, the IMO is like 80% of it. If you want something that's really thriving, your life needs to be there. But I also find a lot of people discouraging other people from trying a lot of the easier ferments, where I think those are actually a great gateway for some people, right? I mean, IMO is like, you got to go to a good part of the forest, you got to collect it, you got to expand it. And yes, this is great technology, but it takes a long time, and maybe you live a fast-paced life and all you can make is, a purslane fermented plant juice. But that's a good way to start. And, of course, you don't want to overdo it with the sugars when you're feeding your plants, but you can also taste it and say, oh, crap, that tastes really good in a cocktail. And now I can drink it. And purslane is great. And so, I think that whole world, even lab lactobacillus, when you're making essentially the lactobacillus serum and the curds from milk in your rice water inoculant, that's a great way to make cheese. I've started making cheese now, where all my byproducts from this serum is the cheese, and I'm really trying to move to only eating that cheese because of how bad all the other cheeses are, right? All the antibiotics that are in cheeses, and you can get a good quality milk, get your lactobacillus serum out of it, which will remediate your yard, will remediate your smelly clothes, will remediate your chicken coops, will do all this beautiful stuff. And on top of that, you get cheese. I mean, that's a win-win. I mean, I don't know, like that's sick to me. That's so cool.
Well, and it's like Lily is bringing up here, not only is dandelion beautiful, every part from flower, leaves, stem, and roots is useful. She had mentioned most city people look at it as a we, where most country people know how nutritious it actually is. And you're using that in your fermentations, and you're getting all of those benefits that you can consume. And then you give back to your plants. And then when you eat those plants, because they've had that additional nutrients, you're getting it back in your body in that way as well. The synergistic relationship, I find, is absolutely amazing.
It is wild. And even with dandelion specifically, humans have had a relationship with dandelion. Dandelion, if I'm not mistaken, is from Europe, and humans purposefully brought it over here and started spreading it because they knew how to work with it, and they liked having it around their establishments and stuff. And it's been a
I think
plant
they were
that's
just a bunch of winos because it's dandelion wine, right?
right. That too, totally, absolutely. There's a lot of reasons to bring plants along with you, and I think cannabis is one of those plants that's been dragged around the planet and has changed a lot of things and has adapted to the different climates and cultures and all these different abilities it has. It's just beautiful. And the relationship that humans have with plants is gone almost nowadays, right?
Yeah.
People, as we were saying, is like we're stepping on medicine every day. We're stepping on food, we're spitting on it. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's like there's purslane, for example, which is one of my favorite go-tos here for the desert kind of region. It's super drought tolerant. It has one of the highest amino acid content of any land plant out there, and everyone considers it a weed. It's literally everywhere, and people are spraying it to get rid of it and all this different stuff. You could be eating that and getting a lot of good nutrients from it, and yet people are just ignoring it. And so, that's a plant that I'm banking on. For example, I've gathered a ton of purslane seeds. I'm keeping that around. I'm making sure I have a lot of that because it yields super really juicy fermented plant stuff. And at the end of the day, it's super nutritious and it's a weed. And if I can get more people to taste it and be like, yo, that was pretty delicious, right? And it's like, oh yeah, well, you stepped on it yesterday, right? It's like, guess what? Start looking around, identifying plants. I really like the different apps that are out there. I mean, there's like Picture This, and of course, iNaturalist is great. They're not 100% accurate, but these apps can actually give you a close idea of what the plant you have in front of you is, and that can unlock all sorts of different stuff, right? I mean, you'll see. Go out there. If you haven't done this already, you just should really consider taking all the pictures of the plants around you, taking the time to get to know them a little bit, and you'll find all sorts of different remedies, right? I mean, there's a plantain here, and it'll suck the bee sting out of you, right? And so if you didn't know that, you'd just be in agony with the bee sting walking through the forest. Knowing that, you can take that pain away. I mean, right, there's so much we can do. The potential is limitless with these plants, and we're just here to unlock it, right? I mean, we're just here to figure it out, and I think it's so much fun.
Well, and I think also understanding your particular environment and the plants that grow well in your particular environment is something that people need to think about as well. Because, say the world did collapse, the food system did collapse, you've got plantain that you can plant and nourish your family and your body, where most people are looking around going, I don't know what's supposed to grow here or what's nutrient dense. I think weeds per se have gotten a really bad name because they seem to be a lot of the most nutritious plants for our bodies. And I think they've been given a bad rap in a lot of ways, because they are so good for us and our soil and our biology. But anyway, let's go another step in a different direction.
Sure.
You're married. Do you have kids yet?
No kids
okay.
yet.
So as I don't know if you're looking at having kids in the future, but are you going to allow your children to play in nature, or are you going to create bubble children like most people in the cities do, which I think is really bad because we need to get out there. But what's your thought on that?
Children should be bathed in nature. Absolutely. I mean, I was almost a bubble kid growing up in some situations. Like when I was homeschooled, for example, I was a bubble, perhaps in a more community kind of sense. And so I think the way to go would be to make it so that the kids have time and a space to play in nature and interact with it and actually build stuff and make things happen. I remember as a kid creating little rivers and diverting them and whatever. Like when you get your hands dirty, I think we can almost embed this greater attachment, right? And I love showing kids, like sometimes I'm in the garden and I'll just like eat a plant off or eat a leaf of something or a tomato straight off the plant like an animal.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to show the kid that that's how it's done. Essentially, that's where it's from, right? I mean, they almost laugh. It's almost funny. It's like, what are you doing? Like, that's not right, Even, but it's I think it's a great example to show kids that where the food that you eat is coming from and how much that matters. And right, the kids are going to be the people ultimately saving the world after us, so they better be vested with all this the need for clean water, clean air, clean food. And we can start creating these little traditions. I think it'd be great if every kid, when they graduate middle school, they plant a fruit tree and they eat the fruit of it when they graduate college. I mean, that's kind of like using modern structures and stuff. But if we do things like this, we can embed this care, we can embed this willingness to interact with nature and create traditions around it and really, make it part of the culture. And so it's not even hard to do. It's not hard to save the planet anymore. It's just habit,
I love that, man, and forming those traditions like that and embedding it into their minds that this is not only where your food comes from, but you can be the caretaker of it. I think that's a phenomenal idea. Thank you. That's brilliant. I know you have the ecological project. Is that part of the basis for what you're teaching in your courses and stuff? Maybe we should get into that for a little bit here on what you're doing and how you're sharing and helping people.
Right. So, I mean, maybe starting at the inception of it all, which was, I think, nearing the end of my college experience, I created this page, Ecological Projects, on Instagram as a way to start spreading the knowledge and getting more people growing mushrooms, getting more people trying different food. And I was really trying to almost intercept a lot of the negativity that was going on social media and say, hey, here's something educational for once, right? Here's something, you're doom scrolling, and all of a sudden, oh, now I know how to make this type of tea, right? And so I named it Ecological Projects because I almost wanted to keep it open. I wanted to keep it essentially vague. I didn't want to commit to mushrooms just yet. I didn't want to commit to natural farming just yet, to the extent that I didn't want to make that my whole personality. I didn't want to make that my whole being. And so it's a platform that encourages education. Now, what I'm hoping for it to be in the future is, a platform where people can come together and almost brainstorm solutions for the future. Now, in these ecological projects, these will all take form in these different projects. And it could be like, hey, here we're restoring this waterway system. We'll get some people working on that, right?
Yeah.
As of right now, what I'm mostly focused on is small free events to teach people the very beginning of natural farming, to just kind of like get that started. And a lot of that is me looking around here in New Mexico and not seeing a lot of people that know anything about natural farming, and just wanting to get that started. I want a community to do this with. It's a lot easier when the community is doing it together and say, hey, you do a huge batch of FAA and I'll do a massive batch of OHN and we'll split it. I want those types of things happening, and it'll only happen if I start bringing people together under the umbrella of this. And in fact, I'm teaching a class this Saturday at the open space here in Albuquerque on Coors. It's just going to be an hour free class on the basics of living soil and natural farming, all these different little inputs. And I made sure to, involve a lot of the people that might be interested. I think the cannabis industry should have an eye on natural farming because the price swings so much. You better have your overhead real low if you want to survive. And we've been seeing this all over the place, right? And it's almost a necessity in some cases. And so providing people a way to make their own soap or wetting agent or their own inputs, I think is going to be a tide that raises all the boats. It's going to help us become more localized. And ultimately, my goal is to just spread this knowledge everywhere. Now, I'm working on a really exciting event with David, my partner, who's the founder of UNI Fungi and the Art Farm. And we're throwing a festival here in northern New Mexico. and we're going to be bringing in a lot of cool teachers. In fact, I'm not at liberty to like discuss that just yet, but there's going to be a lot of cool people that are going to coalesce under the flag of regeneration. And
Yeah.
the idea is to just get this excitement going, right? And to just like talk about Matt Powers real quick. You know, Matt Powers has been an incredible inspiration for me. You know, he talks a lot about you know, all these different solutions that are so necessary, and he has this enthusiasm about it. Of course, he talks about the power of enthusiasm, and it's really made me realize that when you foster a love, a care for something, it gives you this extra energy to do stuff about it. And when we bring people together and give them that energy, you know, we're trying to get the first domino knocked over, which is not actually the first domino, but get the movement going so people start finding solutions in their communities, localizing the economy, right? We don't want to be shipping things all over the planet. We want to keep things local. We want to keep, to the extent that we can, we want to give money to our community and keep it there so that then it can like bless us in the future. And that's all really realistic. It all can happen, you know. I've seen this, and it's a beautiful community that's been online too. You know, I'm basing a lot of this stuff even off of Camp Compost in Michigan. And big shout out to Chandler and Organic Alexa for doing a lot of cool stuff and bringing the community together. You can really, like, it's palpable, the excitement around this stuff. So I can't wait for more people to just slowly wake up to the fact that they can be not only living a better lifestyle, but you can make it possible for everyone. You know, you can eat better food, you can grow it yourself. And the problem is it's hard right now. There's not a blueprint for this stuff. You know, there's not a ton of people being regenerative yet. You know, we're in a degenerative economy. Like most of what people do is degenerating at some point. You know, like all the restaurants, if you work in a restaurant, like the waste that comes out of there, right? If you work in any cubicle in any building, likely like these corporations are causing damage somewhere. So it's hard. And the idea is to create that blueprint so that people can coalesce and get together and do good. It's hard. And so, yeah, it's just giving people the know-how and then give them the ability to also know how to play around with it. That's why Matt Powers' PDC, online PDC, has been great. I mean, if you want like a quick permaculture design class, sure, there's plenty out there that you can do like 2 weeks and you're in and out. Holy crap. All the hours of knowledge, so many different perspectives. Every year, he goes through and does these lives, and I've listened through all the different lives of every chapter. Of course, things evolve and the way we treat compost evolves. And it's this beautiful, beautiful combination of teachers and knowledge. And yeah, it's a super cool place to learn. Definitely, again, this Our Future event that's coming up, watch it live. I mean, not only are there going to be giveaways and stuff, but yeah, he's bringing in a massive panel of people. You know, William Padilla Brown, Chris Trump, Steve Reisner. I mean, holy crap, it's going to be stacked. It's one of those other like free events that all it costs you is to log on and watch.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great. So yeah, if definitely look it up. If anyone's listening right now and is curious about that, look it up, sign up. It's free. It's going to be great.
Okay. Can you, I'm going to flash your IG. Can you put on your IG the link to that for people? Because I know I had Matt Powers. I was fortunate enough to have him on It's All About the Biology tour on the first one.
Awesome. Yeah. That's right. I remember that. That was great.
Yeah, absolutely amazing, man. And he's got such passion for this. And he, like you are, is able to give that passion and to show it in both your voice, your facial expressions, your body expressions. You can just, I can feel it exuding from you, my friend. This
I can't keep it in.
Exactly. And we don't want you to.
Yeah.
And also on your IG, I want you to make sure that you put your event for this weekend so that more people, if they're in your area, can find it. Because it's really important for people to have the opportunity to go out and interact with people of your caliber, of not just in knowledge, but in passion of why you're doing this. And you're trying to help everybody on our planet, you know, be those lit candles I talk about. And it's amazing. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, my friend.
Of course, of course. No, and again, you're creating a beautiful platform for this type of discussion to happen, and that needs to be more common ground, right? And I don't think the U.S. is very, structured to bring community together, right? Europe has all these like plazas and church steps where people meet and gather, and so we got to kind of force it here in the U.S. We got to say, hey, let's round everyone up and let's meet over here, or let's go to this certain person's house and learn about something else, because there's, what do you want to go to the mall and meet people? Like, unfortunately, it's not the best place for that. And so I encourage everyone to just, throw a little regenerative party, say, hey, come over, we'll try to be, conscious of the planet, and let's all talk about our seed saving or whatever, just
Yeah.
start that, and it'll blossom into something beautiful before you know it.
Well, and forming local communities and working together, like you were mentioning before, you make OHN and somebody else is doing an IMO or a water soluble calcium, or, we can all work together for the benefit of everyone. And so it's not a strain on any one single person because we're all helping each other. And I think that's the goal I've always had, is not just to bring out the knowledge about the biology and the different ways we can add biology back into the system, but to get people together in understanding in a common language. That's why I named the tour It's All About the Biology, because it's all encompassing, because that's the very root of everything that happens on our planet. And the ecological system that you're promoting is another step and another part of that. What Matt talks about, and what Drake talks about, and Leighton Morrison, and hundreds and hundreds of other people that are trying to share the information. I just want to be able to bring all of you guys in to shows like this, so people have more of an opportunity to learn from you guys. The passion you guys present to everybody is infectious. It raises the vibration on our planet in such a positive way, that it touches my heart every time that I talk to someone like you that is so passionate and is just wants to help everybody. And I think that's the key, to community, is reaching out to help everybody. And like in Europe, it's an older society. In North America, we're still pretty young, but I think it's just a matter of starting it. It's a matter of holding out the hand, and don't worry about being bit every once in a while, still holding it out there for the people that do want to take it and join you. And that's what you're doing, in New Mexico. That's what I'm doing in Canada, and so many other people around this planet. We're having a positive effect. And, I'm going to ask, if there's one person that has truly influenced your life in this direction, who do you think that would be?
Man. Haha. Yeah, without pausing for too much longer, I mean, I would probably say my mom definitely endowed me with just so much love and compassion and wanting to like better the world, and also introduced me to gardening. That, yeah, like without a doubt, my mom set me kind of like on this journey. And then a ton of beautiful people on the way, who, without, going off on too long of a list, but David Augustiniak at the mushroom farm that I work at now, he's just blessed me with just so much fungal perspective and a lot of trust, and he's such an amazing human being. My friend Josh, who goes by Chromivore on Instagram, that's Chromivore with a K. I mean, he introduced me to the link between this really nuanced cuisine and kitchen and using Koji, and the link to natural farming, and kind of like just blew my mind with all the different other connections in the world of food. And I mean, Matt Powers really lit that fire underneath me. And actually, David introduced me to Matt Powers, and Matt Powers, all his videos are so full of passion and also solutions, like real stuff. Like, great. I mean, I could use a motivational speaker on occasion that says, yeah, you're the best, you can do this and stuff. But if they're not giving you like, here's how you start this specific tomato seed, then they're not doing much. You know, I think they need to give you something that you can do something with, and it's actionable. And the people that have done that for me have really blessed me. And so, yeah, it's been such a cool journey, and I'm sure there are other people that I'm leaving out of this.
You
And
better say something about the wife, or she's gonna walk over there and she's gonna smack you in the back of the head like I told her to earlier. If you got
that's
out of
true.
line, this is out of line. You gotta thank the
It
wife
is
for what she does.
absolutely. Oh my gosh, Alex shifted my paradigm, not only through mushrooms, but through the idea that, I mean, she is so giving and so accepting of what I do. I mean, she lets me rot stuff in buckets. I mean, what else should I say? I mean, she lets me have like all trim on the floor for like 2 days. I mean, right? I mean, she's allowed me to do so much, but she's also giving me the space to do that, and the love and all that stuff. And so, while not maybe sending me on my plant journey, she's embellished it.
Well,
And thank you for saving my ass there.
in loving support. I know my wife is the same. It's all in loving support, and they want what's best for us, and we want what's best for them, and it's that relationship. And bringing your mom into it, I mean, that almost had me in tears, because you know the love that is there is just, it just touched me right away as soon as that was the person that you connected your core of existence to. That was just beautiful, my friend. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. So thank my mom for that, really, because
If I could, I would, but she'd
yeah,
probably
yeah.
reach around your head and smack you in the back too and go, come on, just
Come
go
on.
out and grow some tomatoes.
I know. Amazing.
So where should we go from here, my friend? We've talked about so much of your passion, a little bit of your past, a little bit of your future, because you're putting these choruses together. I know that I've pointed out the Ecological Project. You also have a link tree with a bunch of different stuff on there where they can go to your website, etc. But you know, what are you having real success with right now? And on the flip side, where are you having issues that we might be able to help you with as an audience, or reaching out to do stuff with you?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. So, what I'm having success with right now, or maybe what I'm most excited about playing with, is perhaps this Koji. And for anyone that doesn't know, Koji is a domesticated mold that's been trained in East Asia to be able to essentially digest stuff for us, right?
Okay.
Miso comes from Koji, sake comes from Koji. There's, there are all these different products that come from Koji, and we're just not aware of it. And it's because it's just kind of like this derivative, and it's broadly been replaced by MSG and similar things. However, there's this mold that creates these enzymes. It creates protease, which digest proteins, lipase, which digest fat, and also starch digesting enzymes. And it's going to unlock all sorts of different stuff. I just realized Koji is actually one of the components in EM1. Didn't know that so recently. There's all these different things that you can pre-digest with these enzymes. And it's a whole other level to KNF, right? And to the extent that in KNF, you're doing these like fermentations where you're getting plant matter and putting it one-to-one with sugar. You're sometimes digesting things, with lactobacillus. This is actually isolating these really effective enzymes, and you can get them to digest all sorts of stuff for you and make them bioavailable. So you can make your, dry kelp meal more bioavailable with these enzymes, and all these different things that I think the enzymatic processes are unlocking. And I think more people should play around with this. It's a really easy mold to grow. It's also a very short life cycle, only like about 3 days at most, and you can get this really effective thing from it. It's this tool in the kitchen. You can do all these different things with it. Just to mention maybe one of them and send you guys off on the, you know, in the rabbit hole, but you can get this Koji and blend it with salt and water, and you can have this essentially marinade that you can marinate your meat in, and it turns it tender in like half an hour. I mean, I left some pork chops in there overnight and they're like falling apart on the fork. I mean, it's super, super cool thing to play around with. And I've been kind of incorporating it in pre-digesting stuff for my plants, and I see good response from that. And so I think it's a cool little subsection of it. You also see, for example, the fact that you use a cedar box to cultivate this rice in a certain environment. It's like, oh, that sounds like IMO 1. And you realize, oh, there are all these connections, cultural connections, people using the same tools and how they're crossing over. And so Koji's given me this other perspective on natural farming and enzymatic digestion and also flavor. You know, you can make some of the tastiest things on the planet, right? Miso, essentially miso is this fermented bean paste, which is like a bouillon cube. And what the majority of miso is made out of in the world is out of soybean. But how many other beans do we have? Endless other beans. And we've only now started to ferment those beans. So there are flavors that we don't even know how they taste yet because we haven't done it. And so I'm working on this project where I'm fermenting some tepary beans, which are some really drought-resistant beans from the Sonoran Desert. But one of the highest protein percentages of all beans. And because protein is transformed into amino acids, and that's more or less umami, it could be a totally other different flavor, a stronger flavor to come from this bean, right? And I'm just excited because there's so many other things like that. Everyone could be experimenting with these in the different bioregions and bringing in, right, this East Asian mold, let's call it, mixed with this, you know, Arizona bean, and poof, you have a new flavor that never, you know, happened before. And so I encourage people to look into this, potentially start experimenting with it and fermenting different things. I don't have enough time to ferment all the beans. I need more people to ferment beans. The lesson here. But
that's part of the community is, you know, you have, say, 50 different beans you want to test, and you could have, you know, 50 different people testing using the same methodology, getting the results back and sharing it with the community, which is fantastic. So that's what's going well. What isn't going so well with the ecological project? Where can we maybe assist you?
Let's see. I mean, it's a chaotic world. I think the assistance can be in amplifying the signal. If you see something that you find educational and someone could benefit from it, move it on. Like, honestly, that's what I'm looking for. Share it forwards. I'm really excited about this Fungi Fest that's coming up. And I think that's something that I would love grassroots help to like spread the word on, because I'm not really trying to slap a label on a milk carton or anything, right? I mean, that's exaggeration, but I want the right people to be there. And if it spreads by word of mouth, like, it's going to be a certain filter, right? It's going to select for those that really want to be there and make a difference. I want it to kind of permeate. And so that's just something I'm excited about. And I could obviously use help to spread the word on. But really just help your own community and it'll help me eventually, right? I mean, that's a beautiful thing about this, is that you could probably do a lot more stuff if you just help the people around you. Like, it's easier to help your neighbors literally because they're closer to you, and if you just help them, that'll spread. I mean, if everyone does that, no, we're fine, you know. And so concentrate on your local area, you know. Act locally, think globally, right? There's a lot of this that you just start acting upon these things, you know. For a long time I would hear like, oh, that sounds like a cool recipe, oh, that sounds like a cool compost tea. You got to do it. You go and just figure it out, do it, make the mistakes, experiment, and then spread that knowledge. So if there's anything you guys can do for me, is just amplify regenerating knowledge.
Oh, and that's fantastic. And that's where, you know, having the social media link on LinkedIn that you do, people can go there and they can share that information. And that's why I said, make sure you put the festival on there as well, so that more people
Yeah.
can find out. And anyone in the audience, guys, when you find out about events like this, share them to your social media, share them to your friends, your neighbors, because you never know who may be interested in what is being talked about. So that's one of the fantastic things about social media is be social with it.
Yeah, and if I may I speak to that, just because
Please.
people remember to like and comment on this video too. You'd be surprised like how long that goes. There's this digital
Yeah.
currency out there, and you don't realize, but like for totally free, you could be commenting on someone and helping their reach. And you start seeing through the fog a bit, and a lot of posts, for example, have bots that like comment on all their posts and get them to trend and stuff. But this could be truly grassroots. If you have something you want to say or some input, do comment it on the people you want to support, because it's digital currency. I mean, I just want to be very clear about that. I work with David, and I help his social media page and do a lot of the content there. And we're working on expanding his reach, and really just making it clear that people have a lot more sway than they think they do. They think they're just scrolling, but they could really, help the amplification just by clicking a button or writing a few sentences. It's kind of wild how that is. People pay for comments sometimes, right? And so if you're part of the community, you could gift other people in your community amplification just by commenting on their stuff, by liking their stuff, by sharing their stuff. It's relatively cheap to do it for you,
Well, and exactly, like I'm broadcasting this to Facebook, LinkedIn, my personal YouTube channel. It's all about the biology YouTube channel. It's all about the biology Twitter and my personal Twitter, to try to broaden the spectrum. But anybody that wants to really focus on what this channel is going to do, and it's all about the biology channel on YouTube. Subscribe to that one, put your comments there, because that's the one where I'm going to use that for the tour. And for those of you that don't know, Leighton Morrison has left the Living Soil conversation. He retired from that. He wasn't. He wanted to work on some other stuff. My wife has convinced him that he needs a new show. And so she reached out to him, convinced him that yes, he's going to start coming on to a new show. And if you don't know who Dr. Av Singh is, 300 plus peer-reviewed articles into regeneration, etc. He's going to be Leighton's co-host.
Very cool.
On this channel, it's all about the biology on Fridays, starting on the 27th of this month. 3 in the afternoon Pacific is when it's going to start.
Beautiful. I will be there for sure.
Now, I have one last question that I really want to make sure that I ask every guest that I have. And that is, what would you have to say to the youth of today about the passion it takes to find their path in life? A deep one, my brother, a deep one.
Oh, yeah. What would I say? I would probably give them seeds. I think children especially, like, you can say a lot of things and you may not know what sticks, but to give them something that they can actually do something with, and whether that's a bean that they can grow in their room and it gives them an idea what life is, or a bunch of seeds that they can are drought tolerant, they can just throw wherever and watch grow. I think doing something like that would make one of the biggest impacts. But of course, I'll think on this question, and I think there's some other answers out there, but that's mine.
I think your answer is absolutely beautiful, because in teaching the kids how to grow and watching that plant grow, they're going to get more from that than pretty much anything that you or I could say to them, to watch that growth. And if they pay attention to that plant and connect with it, that's taking them to a whole new level. And so that's a fantastic answer. Thank you. I think that's going to be one of the best answers out there, is give them a seed and put them on the right path. That's brilliant,
Mhm.
my brother.
It wasn't my idea. I assure you of that. It's in the ether. We all know we need to do this. It's
Yes. Yeah. And with that, everybody, I'm going to we're going to end the show. Just to let you know, tomorrow I have James Perkins on in the morning. He is Leighton Morrison's protege. And then I have another person from Camp Compost, Jordan Smeltzer, at 6 p.m. PST. She's going to be coming on and talking about her passion. So I anybody that's out there that wants to join the conversation, reach out to me on IG, reach out to me on LinkedIn, etc. I would love more people that have this passion to come on and share their passion about growth. And it doesn't matter if you're a salesman and you're selling life insurance, as long as you're helping the human species and our planet, I would be proud to have you come on and talk about why you have such passion. Julian, thank you. We're gonna have to do this again, and maybe we'll have to get like a panel together of different genres, Korean natural farming, no-till, etc. Put a panel together so we can explore a bunch of different directions all at the same time. I think that that would be a hell of a fun show.
I'm so down for that, and thank you again so much for this. This has been so much fun.
Well, thank you, my brother. And with that, I'm going to end the broadcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow in the morning.